I found the texts on a Tuesday. Not a dramatic Friday night, not a holiday when everything already feels too heavy to bear. A Tuesday. I was sitting on the kitchen counter eating leftover pasta straight from the container, wearing his old college sweatshirt, and I reached for his phone thinking it was mine. One message. That's all it took. 10 years of marriage, 2 kids, 1 miscarriage, 3 cities, countless arguments about money and dishes and whose turn it was to call the plumber. And it all came down to one message on a Tuesday night. My name is Clara, and I need to tell you what happened after that. Let me paint you a picture of what my life looked like from the outside. Michael and I met in college, Ohio State, junior year, the kind of meeting that sounds like a movie because it sort of was. He knocked a stack of books off my dorm room table trying to impress me, and instead of being smooth about it, he just stood there and said, "Well, that didn't go as planned." I married that man 8 years later. We had Lily first. She's 12 now, sharp as a tack, obsessed with astronomy, already correcting my grammar. Then came Sam, who is 9 and currently convinced he's going to be either a professional soccer player or a marine biologist. And according to him, these are not mutually exclusive goals. We lived in a suburb outside of Columbus. Nice neighborhood, good school district. Michael worked in corporate finance. Long hours, good salary. I had put my graphic design career on the back burner when the kids were small, doing freelance work here and there, telling myself I'd get back to it when things settle down. Things never settle down. I think I knew that, somewhere underneath. From the outside, we were fine. More than fine. We were the couple people referenced when they talked about relationship goals. Our Christmas cards were adorable. Our backyard barbecues were legendary. I genuinely believed we were happy. Here's what I didn't see. I had confused stability for happiness. I had mistaken the absence of drama for the presence of love. His phone lit up on the counter. I thought it was mine. We had the same case, the same dark screen. I picked it up. I read one line. "Last night was everything. I keep thinking about you." The sender was listed as Marcus W., which, I would later realize, was a contact name he'd created to disguise a woman named Rachel. I set the phone down very carefully. I remember that detail, how slowly and deliberately I placed it back on the counter, as though if I moved too fast, the world would shatter faster. I finished my pasta. I washed the container. I went upstairs, got into bed, and lay there next to my sleeping husband in the dark for 4 hours. I didn't cry. I didn't shake him awake and scream. I just lay there, doing math. How long? With who? How many times had I been a fool? I am, by nature, a researcher. I was the kid who read the entire encyclopedia entry even when I only needed one fact. So what I did next was probably inevitable, and also absolutely the worst thing for my mental health. I went through everything. His email, his phone records, a shared cloud account I didn't know he'd forgotten I had access to. I didn't do this in a rage. I did it the way you'd approach a research paper, methodically, calmly, taking notes. Her name was Rachel Whitmore. She was 31, 4 years younger than me. She worked at his firm, not in his department, but close enough. She had an Instagram page that was mostly hiking photos and coffee and quotes about choosing yourself. Normal stuff. She looked like a completely normal person. They had been seeing each other for 14 months. 14 months. Lily had been in 4th grade when it started. Sam had still been in 2nd. I had made Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas cookies, New Year's plans, Valentine's Day reservations, all while being lied to for 14 months. I found a hotel confirmation. A weekend in Chicago, he told me, was a work conference. That weekend, I remembered it. I remembered it because I had texted him a photo of Lily losing her first loose tooth. He had texted back a string of heart emojis. I closed the laptop. I went to the bathroom and sat on the cold tile floor, and I finally let myself cry. Not because I was heartbroken, though I was, but because I was so angry at myself for not knowing, for trusting, for being, as I described it to my therapist later, the last to know in my own life. Here's where the family secrets come in, because nothing exists in a vacuum, does it? I called my mother that week, not to tell her what happened, just to hear her voice. We talked about nothing, the weather, Lily's science project. She mentioned my father was traveling again, which he often did for work even in his late 60s, which I had always thought was perfectly normal. And then she said something offhand, so offhand that I almost let it pass. You know, your father wasn't always faithful. Early on, we went through our hard years. I stopped walking. Mom, what? Oh, honey, it was a long time ago. When? How long? What happened? She paused. Then she said, about 2 years after you were born. 2 years after I was born. 33 years ago. My mother had been carrying this for 33 years. Why didn't you leave? I asked. And she said something I will never forget as long as I live. Because leaving felt like failing, and staying felt like strength. It took me a long time to realize those two things were backwards. I sat down on my kitchen floor, the same kitchen where I had found the text, the same kitchen where I had eaten that pasta. And I asked her, "Are you happy, Mom? Have you been happy?" She was quiet for a very long time. "I've been comfortable," she finally said. Comfortable is not the same thing. I hung up the phone and understood something terrible and clarifying. I was my mother's daughter in every sense. I had been about to do exactly what she did. Stay because it was familiar. Stay because leaving felt like giving up. Stay because the kids, because the house, because the Christmas cards. I was about to swallow the lie and call it strength. I told Michael I knew on a Thursday evening. The kids were at my sister's for the weekend. I had arranged that. I wanted clean space and time, not a scene with Lily and Sam in the next room. He came home from work at 6:47. I remember because I had been watching the clock. I didn't yell. This surprises people when I tell this part. They always expect that I threw things, that I screamed, that there was some cinematic explosion of emotion. But I had already done the screaming, alone, in my car, in a parking garage downtown 2 days earlier, with the music turned all the way up. By Thursday, I was done screaming. I sat across from him at the kitchen table, the same table where we had helped Lily with homework, where we had done Thanksgiving crafts with the kids, where we had had 100 ordinary dinners, and I said, "I know about Rachel. I know it's been 14 months. I know about Chicago." He went gray. That's the only way to describe it. The color just left him. "Clara, I don't need you to explain right now. I need you to not lie to me. Can you do that?" He put his head in his hands. He cried. Michael, who I had never seen cry except when Sam was born, sat at our kitchen table and sobbed. And here is the part of myself I'm least proud of. I felt sorry for him. I sat there watching the man who had lied to me for over a year fall apart, and my first instinct was to reach out and touch his shoulder, to comfort him, to say it's okay. I didn't. I kept my hands in my lap. but the instinct was there, and it horrified me. When he could speak again, he said what I imagine most people say in this situation, that it didn't mean anything, that he didn't know how it happened, that he loved me, that he loved the kids, that he had ended it. He said this with urgency, like it was a card he could play. He had ended it 3 weeks ago. I thought about my mother. "Michael," I said, "I need to ask you something, and I need the real answer." "Okay. Are you in love with her?" He was quiet for too long. "I don't know," he said finally. "I thought I was, but when I ended it, I realized what I was risking. That's not what I asked." More silence. "I don't know," he said again. I nodded. I got up, refilled my water glass, and stood at the counter looking out the window at our backyard. The kids' playset was out there. The garden I had spent 3 summers growing. The fire pit where we'd roasted marshmallows last fall. "I appreciate you not lying," I said. "Clara, please, I need you to go stay with your brother for a while. I need space to think. The kids, I'll handle the kids. Please go pack a bag." I spent 2 weeks in that house with Lily and Sam, putting on a face every single day, being functional and calm and present, while internally I was in free fall. I saw a therapist. Her name was Dr. Anita Reeves, and she had the most soothing voice I have ever heard, and she did not tell me what to do, which I both appreciated and found maddening. "What do you want?" she kept asking. "I don't know," I kept saying. "Then let's start there." The honest answer, the one I hadn't said out loud yet, was, I wanted to have never found out. I wanted to go back to the blissful ignorance of last Tuesday's pasta. I wanted my life to be what I thought it was. But it wasn't, and it never would be again. The only question was what I built next. My sister Dana was furious on my behalf, which was actually helpful because I needed someone to be furious while I was still in shock. She said, "Clara, you leave him. You leave him right now." My mother said nothing for a while. Then she said, "Whatever you decide, make sure it's for you. Not for the kids, not for the house. For you." That's when I knew my mother had spent 30 years deciding for someone other than herself. I had not planned to tell the kids anything until I had a plan, but children are not stupid, especially not 12-year-olds who read at a 10th grade level and observe everything. Lily came to my room one night, 3 weeks in. She sat on the edge of my bed the way she used to when she was little and had a bad dream. "Mom, is Dad coming home?" "We're figuring some things out, sweetheart." "Is it because of something he did?" I looked at my daughter, her serious eyes, her father's nose, my stubbornness in every line of her jaw, and I made a decision. "Yes," I said. She nodded slowly. She was quiet for a moment. "Did he hurt you?" "Not the way you're thinking, but yes." "Are you going to be okay?" "Yes, absolutely yes." "Are we going to be okay?" I pulled her toward me and held on. "We are going to be more than okay," I said. "I promise you that." She let me hug her. She's 12, so this was already a gift. And then she sat up and said, very practically, "Okay, what do you need me to do?" I almost burst into tears right there. I held it together. I said, "Just be exactly who you are." She went back to her room. I sat in the dark and thought, that kid is going to be fine. Whatever happens, that kid is going to be fine. 6 weeks after the Tuesday of the text, I called Michael and told him I wanted a divorce. He asked if we could try counseling. I said no. Not because I thought we couldn't be fixed, maybe we could have been, but because I understood something my mother hadn't. I didn't want to be fixed. I wanted to be real. And real meant starting from honesty, not from a 14-month lie. The divorce took 8 months. It was not ugly, but it was not easy. We fought about the house, then agreed to sell it. We fought about holidays, then figured it out. The kids stayed primarily with me, with Michael having them every other weekend and one evening a week. Lily was angry at her dad for a long time. Sam didn't fully understand what had happened, but he felt the weight of it, the way kids do. I watched my son carry something that wasn't his to carry, and that was the hardest part of all of it. Harder than the lonely nights, harder than the legal bills, harder than running into Michael and Rachel at Sam's soccer game 8 months later. Yes, that happened. She came to his soccer game. I sat in my camp chair with my coffee, and I did not leave, because that was my son's game, and I was not going anywhere. Afterward, Sam ran to me first. That mattered. He ran to me first. Here's what nobody tells you about rebuilding your life at 37. It is both terrifying and, in the strangest way, kind of electrifying. I went back to design. Full-time, I applied for an in-house position at a marketing firm downtown, and I got it. I hadn't worked a real job since Lily was a toddler. The first week, I came home every day feeling like I had run a marathon. The second week, I started looking forward to Monday. I made new friends. I started running again at 5 a.m. on Saturday mornings, alone, with podcasts in my ears. It turned out that running in the dark before your kids wake up is an incredible form of therapy. My mother came to visit and stayed for 2 weeks. One night, we opened a bottle of wine and sat on my new apartment's small balcony and talked until 2 in the morning. Her life before my father. Her dreams she had put away. Who she might have been. "It's not too late," I told her. "I'm 68, she said. 68 is not dead, Mom." She laughed, really laughed. And then she said, "I thought staying was the brave thing. I think now that leaving, that took more courage than I had." "You raised me," I said. "You gave me enough courage for both of us." I want to tell you something that I don't always say out loud. I am grateful for the Tuesday of the text. Not for what Michael did. That was a choice he made, and it hurt. I am not grateful for that. But I am grateful for what followed. Because I would have stayed. I know myself well enough to know that if the text had never come, I would have stayed in that life for decades. Comfortable. Quiet. Slowly disappearing into someone else's story. Instead, I found my own. Lily told me recently, out of nowhere, the way teenagers occasionally hit you with wisdom, "Mom, I think you're happier now." I said, "What makes you think that?" And she said, "You laugh more. And when you laugh, it goes all the way up to your eyes." 12 years old. I laughed, all the way up to my eyes. If you are sitting somewhere right now holding your own version of that Tuesday text, whether it's a message, a receipt, a gut feeling that something is wrong, I want you to hear this. The hardest part is not the leaving. The hardest part is letting yourself believe you deserve more. I was 37 years old when my marriage ended. I thought the best chapters of my life were behind me. I was spectacularly wrong. The chapters I'm living now are the ones I'm writing myself. And for the first time, everything feels real. My name is Clara, and this is the story of how I found out that the life I thought I had was not the life I was meant to live. It started on a Tuesday. It is still going. And one last thing. If this story hit home for you, if you saw yourself in any part of it, please subscribe. Every story on this channel is real, it is raw, and it is worth your time. And drop a comment below and tell me, where in the world are you watching this from? I want to know. I read every single one.